Live from WRCT Studios in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Total Education Hour, the talk shop for teachers, parents, and administrators. Here's your host of the show, Neil Haley, the Total Tutor.
Well, I tell you what, I'm exhausted. That's the word I'm going to say for this week, is exhausted. Again, I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley, tutoring so many families all over the Pittsburgh area and via Skype. I'm just exhausted this week as the second week of the great summer tutoring event. But I wanted to welcome now my co-host. Please go to my website at totaltutor.org for more info. I want to first of all welcome my co-host, Jarrett.
Great to be here, Neil. I want to say a special hello to my friends attending the Infant Mental Health Conference. I know they're tuning in and listening to the show today.
Absolutely, Jarrett. And I also wanted to say is basically you're my developmental therapist, behavior expert. Then I also want to welcome my educational consultant from Total Tutor, Darcy Hyman. How are you, Darcy?
I'm just as exhausted as you are, Neil.
And you helped me out because of how I was exhausted by bringing in another co-host today.
I did.
Can you introduce the person for me, please?
Yes, this is my friend Alicia. Alicia, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I am a musician and educator. I work in a school in the Pittsburgh area, and just here to talk about an interesting topic later today.
Oh, well,
Awesome.
fantastic. And my producer just told me that Jennifer Stansel's online. Jen, thanks for calling the program from WQED. You have something exciting to tell us about.
I do, Neil. It's so good to be back. I'm working on becoming a regular contributor.
Oh, well, I love that. Again, it's what a great working relationship to have with WRCT and WQED, and especially this being a national show. And I can't wait till I finally can get in front of the camera at WQED in the fall. I'm talking to Maria about that, so I'm excited. So what's coming up? And I'm excited by just reading about this, but you can pretty much tell us the gist of this.
Sure. We have a program, and you mentioned that it's national. This is a national first, and a program that will go national in September, but is debuting in Pittsburgh on Monday, July 11th, and it's called IQ Zoo. You can find it at iqzoo.org, or just by being at the zoo, the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium, and focusing your smartphone on a QR code that is around the zoo that will tell you all about the animals and bring you PBS video with it.
Wow, that is
fantastic.
very, very interesting. And I guess it's a step up from things that before that sometimes people buy at the zoo and stuff like that.
Right, the little card key that
Yeah.
they had that you would slide in.
Exactly.
This sounds like a really cool idea, and what a great way to connect modern, our new technology with some of the great new exhibits at the zoo.
Absolutely. I mean, what we're so excited about with this QR code technology, and just explain that to your listeners, those are the little barcodes, the square barcodes, that allow you to point your phone if you're using the correct reader, and they're all free. BTAG, Crafter, QR code, barcode, all of those are free. You point that right at this animal, and the signage at the zoo is beautiful. You'll know it. It's right by the giraffes and the gorillas and the polar bears. And you point that, and you're getting PBS video. Imagine how excited a child is when they can actually get more information about something they're interested in right in that moment. That's what QED is built for, and that's why we're excited to work with the zoo on this project. It is the first in the nation, so we're really excited to see how, our early data has said great things. Families are receiving it very well, but we're really excited to launch it on Monday.
Well, Jen, I know my daughters would be really excited because, again, they love the zoo, but to be able to see that interaction is fantastic. And I know Darcy has a great question for you.
I do, actually. I love that you're including this technology in the zoos, and we always talk about including technology in the classroom. Where did you get this kind of idea?
One of the things that I was inspired by, thank you very much, is augmented reality. So if you are new to that segment of the technology world, augmented reality is simply putting a new layer of content over your real world. And we can do that in lots of ways. And the best thing about working with children's content, like I do at PBS, is that the content is so educationally rich. So for me, PBS announced at its annual meeting 2 years ago that we would have a new show called Wildcrafts. Wildcrafts debuted in January and is so popular I cannot even tell you. And being able to connect what they are doing on television with a real live experience at the zoo it was an easy idea for us to implement, really, because we had all the assets. We had the video assets. We have the technology. We just wanted for the zoo to participate, and they did willingly and happily.
Well, that's great.
Hey, Jen, again, this sounds like just great ideas, and I love this rich environment that we're providing. What were the biggest challenges that you were facing while designing this program?
That is a great question. I think one of the things that is particularly complicated is the ability to view all of the platforms. View all of the videos on all of the platforms. So one of the big struggles that we had was an educational struggle. How will teachers being able to use this resource free in their class, even if they have Internet Explorer 6, even if they're in an environment that has very little technology, could they actually access the video? Would it look good? Would it look how we intended? Would they get the full experience? So actually that's the hardest thing, is to make the work, make the content available on every platform that's freely accessible.
So this is an educational talk show, and we always want to talk about teachers. So how can teachers use this, especially if we're launching it now, but then all the field trips that schools are going to go through, how are they going to be able to utilize that in the classroom so that they're able to teach standards and make sure that's a very good education trip?
I think that's a great point. I think that one of the things that I know from being a museum and an informal educator is that what happens around the visit as well as with the visit is incredibly important. IQZoo is nimble enough to happen within your visit as well as after or before your visit to the zoo. So either as a parent, a teacher could assign a parent to say, okay, we're going to the polar ice cap. Learn all about the polar ice cap, and this group is going to take the polar ice cap and explain it when we get to the zoo. And they're going to know then about the seal and the walrus and the polar bear and the penguin already for their classmates. Their classmates can do the same by investigating the African savanna or the forest monkeys, which we have all three of those biomes. So what's exciting to me is that the preparation can be there before you go visit, so that the visit itself gains traction for the kids.
Wow. I'm excited to just take my daughters to the zoo. Again, I enjoy it, but now with this interaction, that's fantastic and awesome.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to share with you, and I think is even more important, is that Carlow University has been incredible and is conducting research for us right now, so that we are using student researchers in business, marketing, education, and behavior to actually assess this entire experience, and hopefully able to publish papers about the experience of using QR codes in zoos and how effective they are for family learning.
Well, the QR code is becoming a very, very popular thing, especially with smartphones, utilizing that for a company I deal with that sends out cards, and they basically have a QR code. So it's a great way of promoting marketing, things like that. So it's, again, the interaction that you have to create the technology to engage the students and for them to be able to see video of these animals and learn more about them, not just a noise like the old days, right, Jarrett? And then
that's right. I
like
remember those days.
The little explanation, that is just great. I mean, kudos, and that's fantastic that it's being launched in Pittsburgh. So my national audience, more like international audience, will be able to know about this, and then when it goes to other cities. Now, what city's coming after Pittsburgh?
So I think that's a great question. So what we're going to do, we are in part of a pool with all of our PBS colleagues. We are one of 6 grantees that have been granted an interactive grant. We're the only ones that are, everyone's idea is different. So the first places that we're looking to are those grantees, which are in Florida, New York, Indiana, and California. And so I think that's one of the places that we'll look. We've also gotten interest from Seattle, from Atlanta. Wow. But what's so great about this is, Neil, this is free. So if you if a zoo works with its PBS station, they can take all of our signage, all of our work, all of our content, and just place it at their giraffe.
That's great.
And they are able to participate in IQZoo, and kids can actually participate themselves by making their own zoo. So there's a My Zoo page, there's a games page, there's an events page, and any zoo can participate and put up events and games games, and as we get more animals, they can put up their own animals, too, that we don't have. Well, we don't have a zebra in Pittsburgh, but I know someone's got a zebra, so we'll look to a PBS station to add the zebra and that content.
So there's links that folks, users will be able to navigate to find out even more information. I really like what you presented to everyone about the whole idea of it being accessible to everyone. Our show frequently has discussions of fairness and having things out there that everyone can use. How about someone like me who has a phone that really was purchased around 1995? What am I going to be able to do?
What you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to either at your home or at the library, again, somewhere where access is easy for you, you will be able to go online and actually have a larger experience than you will mobily.
Wow.
With the mobile experience on IQ Zoo, we right now in the summer we're giving you all of the information, but we will start to bullet that information and make it more accessible for someone who's walking around a zoo, so that they then go to the website and you can find out what 15 animals eat, how they where they live in the world, what their conservation status is. You'll see a video about them. You'll hear them. You'll find out what their best behavioral adaptation is, and you'll be able to see an entire slideshow on what these habitats, like the African savanna, are like, who lives there, what the climate is, etc. So you'll get a full experience online, plus be redirected to games that help you understand animals, animal behavior, and the careers behind animals and working with animals.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know you're always on top of everything, so I kind of want to ask you, I know this is the first zoo to get it and all that, but do you have any ideas for the future? Where do you want to go with this? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I have some ideas for Pittsburgh, and I have some ideas. I mean, I think we obviously want, what we can do is we can partner with someone that has a rainforest, partner with someone that has a desert, partner with someone that has, we'd like the aquarium, if we can figure out the technology of being in a loud aquarium and all that water. We'd like to do a rainforest, et cetera. So we'd like to add biomes. That's easy. We'd like to get lots of zoos and PBS partners on board. But for me in Pittsburgh, I think that the power of the QR code is not just what we can push to kids, but what kids can push to us. So that I'd like to see QR codes all around Pittsburgh that are kids talking about their experience in that place. So I'd like to change it up a little bit and allow for QR codes to actually reflect what kids think and is important at a particular place.
Well, Jennifer, we have about a minute, but one thing I'm going to do is post on all the other social media sites and all those different things about this show, so hopefully the word gets out internationally so that people will be contacting you saying, hey, we want to go ahead and bring this to our zoo. Where can we find more information on you?
For me, it's at WQED. You can email education@wqed.org, and you'll get straight to me. Or you can go to the iqzoo.org website, and there's a Contact Us section, and you can just click right on that, and it's got my information.
Well, thanks again, and I am glad that you're a contributor to the Total Education Network, and I really appreciate you calling, and good luck in this venture. I think it's fantastic.
Thanks so much.
All right, well, take care. All right, that was Jen Stansel from WQED. Wow, what an unbelievable first guest, but we have 3 awesome guests to come. Again, you are listening to the Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.
There comes a time in life when you need government information,
and you just don't know which way to turn.
Well, there's a place you can go to put an end to your frustration.
It's a site that everyone should learn.
USA.gov.
Find your Social Security benefits online.
USA.gov.
Our list of jobs will put you on cloud nine.
USA.gov.
Shop auctions for a used minivan anytime.
USA.gov.
You can apply for a student loan.
USA.gov.
Get energy saving tips for your home.
USA.gov.
So great you might just get carpal tunnel syndrome.
It's government made easy. For the people, USA.gov.
Did you know that the average Social Security benefit is only $780 a month?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that most people will spend 20 years in retirement?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that a 40-year-old who saves $20 a week can have $75,000 when they retire?
I didn't know that.
There's a lot you might not know. To get free information about savings, visit our website or call this number.
I know what to do now.
Now I want to talk about our next topic. I don't know if we do have our guest on the line. Chris, do we have our guest on the line? Dr. Carrie Miller, thanks for calling the program. You're a contributor on the Total Education Network, and I'm so glad you're back to the Total Education Hour.
Hi, Neil. Great to be back. How are y'all?
Doing very, very well. But one of the things I'm really excited about is the topic you sent today, because Jared and I have talked about this before. Teachers making home visits. Can you go into a little more detail about this?
Oh, yeah. You know, it's an interesting topic for me, too. Excuse me. I was noticing that the Chicago Public Schools have they have a network of 9 charter schools operated by the United Neighborhood Organization, and apparently they have a new CEO. It's Jean-Claude Brizard. Anyway, he's got some innovative ideas, and some of them I agree with, and some of them I'm not so sure I agree with. So what he wants to do is he wants to get rid of professional development days. There are 15 days in the teacher's work schedule that are devoted to professional development and not to instruction. And what he wants to do is get rid of all of those professional development days, and so the teacher's work year would not be extended at any days. So he's not going to pay them anymore. So far that's fair. But what he's going to do is he wants to have all the master teachers and the principals in the classrooms full-time, helping with professional development of teachers. So he's making that like line staff position into professional development rather than management. I'm not sure how he's going to do the management of the site. That might be more globally handled from the whole charter school organization. And that's an interesting concept, and I like that a lot. And then he's asking the teachers to forego any pay raises due to added experience or getting more training or credentials. That I'm not so thrilled about. And then he's asking teachers to make 2 home visits per year. They're going to split up the kids into, 20 per teacher, 10 per teacher, whatever it is, and each teacher has to visit those kids' homes twice a year.
I think it's awesome, and we talked, and we definitely talked about this. I wonder if he was listening to one of our shows, and I don't know if Jared, you remember that topic.
I do remember it. We had talked about how really insignificant the teacher and service days were, and substituting those with something else. Now, let's go back to, you had mentioned 3 things here for us, Carrie, Dr. Miller, and I'd like to know, what benefit do you see from, what would you see coming out of the home visits?
That's an interesting topic. Home visits, I have always been taught and raised on the research that says home visits are very effective. They help build greater attendance, greater school achievement, greater parent cooperation, greater parent involvement in education, and all those things are great. But then I was also reading an article, and I think this is probably true for some parents. They probably feel uncomfortable having people come into the home, and I suddenly realized, well, of course, not everybody wants to welcome someone who's an outsider into their home for any one of a number of very good reasons. And so I think it should be more of a volunteer kind of a thing. I don't think you should inflict that on a parent, because I think that could backfire on you.
That's interesting, but again, Jared has had fantastic success, but I know Darcy has a question, but fantastic success, and I have as well, working in the homes in early intervention, and it shows the most progress, in my opinion, of any services that are provided by the state, that they just do such a tremendous job, especially Jarrett and the organization that I worked for before, that guess what? They just were able to show progress, and most of the kids show progress. What percentage, Jared? A very high percentage.
A very high percentage. I mean, almost every child will show progress, and as we know from this show, that children will develop at different stages and at different times. But I think the home visit really is effective in letting the parent know that you are coming, that you are are working within their environment as opposed to saying, you need to come into my classroom to talk about your child. I think it's just a very purposeful way of making connections.
Right, and I'm so glad that you say it that way, too, because I kind of want to ask, I know we're talking about how a lot of parents might feel uncomfortable inviting a teacher into their homes. Maybe they feel like the teacher might be judging them or any number of reasons. Do you have any suggestions as to what as to what a parent who feels uncomfortable having a teacher come into their home, what they might do instead?
Instead of the home visit, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is a great question. I suddenly thought of doing something online, but that certainly wouldn't work for low-income families. They might not have a webcam setup. I think we still need to get parents to come up to school, and the reason for that is that's where the education takes place.
Absolutely.
And we need to find more ways to get parents to feel comfortable coming to school, starting a dialogue with the teachers so that they feel better about the teachers, if they're reluctant to have the teacher in their home, that they're more comfortable having somebody now that they know and trust, that they feel really has their child's best interests at heart, to come to their home. That would be the ideal way.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's such a... I think I love this, and I wrote a blog on this, Jarrett, and you don't even give me props on this about 6 months ago to a year ago. And we did also a show together on Wednesdays. We did a show on a Wednesday night.
It now belongs to the Total Tutor.
Exactly, it belongs to me. So Jean-Claude Van Damme, no, I'm just kidding. I knew I was going to say that one. But basically my thought is, Dr. Miller, is that I think this is a fantastic idea, and this is the reason, because once parents know that teachers care, that they're willing to come to the house, I think 95% of them will want them to come to the home. Do you think that's true? I mean, I think that, I don't know that there's naysayers out there, but I think if you could visit every house, I think that there would be a relationship built and that maybe kids would behave better. What's your thought?
Oh, I definitely think that if you form a relationship, things improve. And I think there are multiple ways to form relationships. And I think relationships have to be formed both at the school, and they definitely should be formed at the school because that's where the education is taking place. And they also can very profitably be formed at home. And I think some parents would, it depends on the area, like here probably, I live in Beverly Hills. So here probably home visits would go fairly well. You probably never get somebody like J-Lo, to be actually present for the home visit, but the parents who are, lawyers, doctors, that kind of thing, they're going to welcome it. Some parts of town, I'm not too sure that would be the case here in Los Angeles. I think, for example, in Watts, that it might be a little harder sell.
See, I disagree, and I'm sorry to interrupt you on this, because
No,
the reason I disagree is because charter schools is a different animal than public schools. And I know TFT would hate hearing me say that, and Bronx Teacher. Shout-outs to them. But the fact is, ultimately, they won't like it. They will like it because they have taken the ownership to be in that charter school. And that they're going to want that. It'd be different if you forced home visiting in public education. But in charter schools, parents that choose charter schools are choosing to better educate their children.
No, I'm sorry, you are absolutely right. I was answering that from the general education kind of standpoint, not from the charter school. I wholeheartedly agree for charter school parents.
Because, I mean, I just think that that's the thing, the parental involvement.
Yeah. I know we keep talking about all this parental involvement and the teacher involvement. What do you guys think about teachers having office hours? I know college professors always had them, and I know teachers are always at the school all day long. I know, I'm getting looks. But I mean, what do you think about just having a day where everybody knows that you're going to be there a little bit longer, or they know that you're going to be there at a certain time?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah. Well, what I think is that the office hour concept, many teachers build in anyway. They're there at lunch, they're there before school, they're after school. Right. That's unpaid time generally.
Yes.
And I think it ought to be, like your passing period, your prep time. I think you also ought to build in and pay for a time when you're available to students, just like they do at college. It's absolutely essential for the student to be able to come in and interface with the teacher in a one-to-one situation.
Well, that's such a great point, and I think that again they force teachers a lot of times. I'm always kind of bashing teachers in certain ways, Jared, and I don't mean to. Again, I just am
not you,
not me at all. No, but I have other friends that probably bash teachers in a worse way. But here's the fact: that I think that you can't force teachers if they're not getting paid to do a lot of things,
right?
Because their time is valuable. They're exhausted after a long day. To put out office hours, that's just a little bit too much of a constraint. Jared, any more thoughts on this home visit?
Well, my own thought, again, I think home visits really should be a part of the curriculum. I mean, obviously this school, the charter school district in this area is trying different things because there's a need for it. We've talked frequently how children in poverty are really being let down by their school systems. So few are graduating. So it does take new ideas, maybe even extreme ideas, to make a difference. And I think that we could even look at some of these and say, yeah, they are a little bit of extreme ideas. My own feeling is, look, you're paid to do a job. You need to be at school. Office hours should be a part of the school day. Any teacher that's leaving at 5 after 3 when their school day ends at 3, they need to be rethinking their career. They need to be there longer to have access to the students and the parents.
Then maybe see, I just agree in the fact that you have to arrive so early in the morning. That's a different story. If it was 9 to 5, I'm fine just hitting the 5.
8:30 is so early in the morning.
No, that's not the
Some of them are
case.
7:30. I will give you that. But think about all these other jobs that people have, too. I know tons of other people who have jobs that they're there at 7 a.m. and they don't leave until 7 p.m. I mean, it really depends on the job that you have. And I'm sorry that, everybody's running out of the school, but I mean, as a teacher, I stayed.
Well, see, Darcy, that's why charter schools are successful, is because they have the teacher staying longer, and all that.
They have passion.
And they have that passion, but that means that, like, I remember Dr. Miller, we talked about before the importance of saying that maybe teachers, once they teach a few years, end up being mentors to other teachers and not be so forced into teaching all the time. I think we talked about that in one of our hour shows on Blog Talk, if you remember.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. And I want to go back and weigh in, though, with my probably not too popular opinion. I think most of the way we look at the teaching profession comes from, 100, 200 year ago history, where they were school moms, they were underpaid, they were all women, and they had no status in the community. You were an old maid, you were a school mom. I think we have unfortunately taken that mentality and we've extended it into the 21st century, and we expect every teacher to give, just like we expect every mother to give. This is a profession. Professions are paid for their service.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I think Alicia, did you have something?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to bring up the point that a lot of specials teachers, like phys ed, the coaches who see their students after school, music teachers, drama teachers, they have a wider relationship with their students, and they might be a good group to poll to see how that affect knowing the students a little bit more in depth, and staying later at school, because that's what they have to do, might show some interesting information on this topic.
Right.
That's interesting, but again, the unions will say, you better pay us for it.
But see, their school year is longer, too. I mean, if you have something like band camp, or if you have like a choir camp, or even if you look at the cheerleaders, the football, all the different coaches, they have a longer day and a longer school year, but they don't get paid any differently.
Absolutely. Well, I can't believe we're running out of time. Dr. Miller, where can we find more information on you?
Well, at MillerEducationalExcellence.com.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Dr. Miller, and I hope to have you on again. And again, we're filming for television, so definitely send the picture so we can have that on. And then we're again on in Milwaukee for television, Pittsburgh, and Connecticut, and we're looking for more stations. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Neil. Have a nice weekend.
All right. You take care.
Thanks, Dr. Miller.
Okay.
Bye.
Well, again, two awesome guests, but we have to take a break. You're listening to Total Education Hour on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.
I've lived in Delhi all my life, and I have seen the weather change. The monsoon this year has been more erratic than I can ever remember. We've had, I think, highest temperature in the last 50 years. Growing up, you'd wait for what we call an andhi, a squall. This year, there's not a drop. Some estimates say 2017 Delhi, 15 million people are going to be without water.
passed away last year. It was hard at first when I found out how sick he was. The doctor suggested hospice care at home. Hospice helped so much. He came home, and that was wonderful. They helped me take care of him. They made his last months comfortable, pain-free. We were able to find some joy till the very end.
In a world of fear, what they needed most was each other.
Here comes the monster. The Tickle Monster.
Just imagine what a little time can do for your family. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Kenny, quand nga sa table de multiplication ma dégg?
3 fois 1, 3. 3 fois 2, 6. 3 fois 5, 15.
bu jëkk Mariama ndax mën nga ñoo wax ñaata xaalis nga am ci weer.
Well, okay, we're back to the Till Education Hour. Till Vicky Cobb calls, and I thought, Darcy, let's go ahead and ask Alicia some questions about her topic, and then we could get back Vicky in a later point. Are you there, Vicky? Vicky?
No, this is Andrea Warren. I'm here.
Andrea, you're here. Okay.
I am, yes.
Then Vicky's not on the line. Andrea is. Okay. We'll go right to this. And again, I'll edit all this stuff out. Don't worry. Let's go exactly what's going on. But okay, Andrea, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get to our interview.
Oh, I will. I'm a former teacher. I started my teaching career as an 8th grade teacher, and then through circumstances you don't really need to hear about, I moved on up to high school. It had more to do with switching into a town where that was the job I could get. But I stuck with it. I really enjoyed it. And so I've taught 8 through 12, and I taught primarily English. I had a history minor, so I was doing some teaching of history, too, and I'd always loved it very, very much. But I didn't care for teaching it, and the minute I started teaching it, I remembered why I had struggled against it a lot as a student. I think that what we expect of students, first of all, is rote memorization to get through history. They've got to learn a lot of dates, and they've got to learn wars and generals' names and the rivers they crossed, and they have to learn about peace treaties, and they never learn about somebody like themselves, and they never learn about feelings and emotions and what happens to families. And
okay, Andrea. Hello?
Are you still there?
Yeah, we're still.
Neil?
Yeah, we're still here.
Hi. Okay, something happened there. And so when I started doing my writing, I sort of worked my way up through a freelance writing career, doing a lot of writing about people and doing features and so forth. And I came to this topic of the orphan trains, and I immediately knew that this was something that young readers would like. And this is what launched my writing career, writing nonfiction history for young readers. And I have 6 books out now, and number 7 is coming out, and number 8 is on the drawing boards. In fact, I'm hard at work on it. So I have very much segued into this, and I feel a real passion about writing stories that are about young people and that kids get right onto and love to read, and they learn history while they're doing it because they're reading about young people, and they're asking themselves, if this had been me, what would I have done? And I've picked some very critical junctures in history to write about. And then, of course, the very hard part is finding a child who's been through that experience and has left enough of a memoir or an article or a book or something about it, or it's someone who's still alive that I can interview.
And we were talking a little bit off air about the excitement that students can really see in the classroom when this kind of material is presented. What are some of the most effective teaching techniques you have seen in the classroom from your work?
You know, I've seen various things. My books read well aloud, And some of the teachers do that when the books are still just a little bit above the kids in terms of reading level, but the subject matter works well for them. The books are also used in adult ed classes that way. They're used in ESL classes that way. And with older students, the vocabulary is simple enough that they can really get into it. But I think in terms of what you're saying, it's just that there's such an emotionally gripping story at the center of these books, and the kids so strongly identify with it. And if you want, I'll give you an example of that.
I'd love to hear that example.
One of my books is Surviving Hitler, a boy in the Nazi death camps. And when I interviewed the first man who I thought might be the main character in the story, it turned out he was not. He died of a heart attack very soon after we had started our conversations about it. But before that happened, he showed me a letter he had gotten from an 8th grade girl. And he had been at a middle school. He was one of these Holocaust survivors who was willing to go out into the schools and talk to students. And that's asking a lot from him, because anytime he did that, he had to relive all of that himself. It was no easy thing to do. But he would do it. He would go out and he would talk. And he got a letter from a girl who said, I had to go listen to you for one of my classes. And I wasn't paying much attention to you in the beginning because what I was thinking about was the fact that when I got home from school that day, I was going to kill myself. I had tried this a couple of times before, and it hadn't worked, but I'd figured out how to make it happen this time. And then I started listening to you. And as I listened to you talk about everything that had happened to you and how you got through that and the kind of person you'd become since then, I thought, if you could get through that, I can get through this. And I'm writing this letter to tell you that my life is better now, and I really want to thank you. So, those are the kinds of things that can happen when kids find out what other kids have had to go through and have made it through. I don't write about easy things. I mean, A Boy in the Nazi Death Camps was no easy book to put together, believe me.
Right.
Okay, so basically, when I hear this, I mean, this has to be something that it's hard for teachers to teach, especially. What age would you think that kids should be learning about this? I mean,
I thought with that book, I personally thought that it'd go for 12-year-olds and up, but it is taught commonly at the 4th and the 5th grades. It's used as an introductory book to the Holocaust. It's taught right alongside Anne Frank. Boys and girls really like it, and they'll read it and read it and reread it. And the teachers tell me that once they read this book, now they want to know, why did World War II happen? Why did the Holocaust happen? And they want to get at a lot of the issues behind that, because they now personally know someone who went through it, because they go through the whole experience with this boy named Jack, who's caught up in all of this and spends 3 years in those camps. So, I tend to write about orphans. It's not a choice I've made to do. It's just that if you're going to write about war, you encounter that a lot. So I've got Escape from Saigon, which is the subtitle is How a Vietnam War Orphan Became an American Boy. And this is about a younger child who has an American father who's then left the mother and son in Vietnam and returned to the States. And the mother's very depressed, and she takes her young son back to her native village, and she ends up committing suicide. And then an elderly grandmother takes on the boy and cares for him until she can't do it anymore, and then turns him over to an American relief agency, asking them to find her grandson a home. This is the Holt Agency out of Portland, Oregon. And they do this, and they have a family assigned finally for him, and then suddenly it's the end of the war. Saigon is surrounded. There's a siege of the city. The only way out is by air. And Long, who becomes Matt or Matthew in the United States, is very fortunate to be one of the children who's airlifted out of that city at the end and to make it to his new adoptive family in the States. I had a real personal issue for wanting to write that story because I have an adopted daughter who also came out on what was called Operation Baby Lift at the end of the war in those final days of Saigon. That's the only time I've had a personal connection with this, although kids will ask me all the time if I had a relative who rode the orphan trains or who fought in the Civil War or who homesteaded in Nebraska, because one of my books is about homestead children in Nebraska. So
And Andrea,
tough topics. The kids are always hungry. Hunger is a theme throughout my books.
Okay.
And they are hard topics, Neil.
Yes.
But kids aren't immune to hard topics. I mean, they know life is tough. The thing is, they see how resilient these kids are, and it can help them deal with their own problems. It turns them on to history. It makes them want to know more. It gives them strength they didn't know they had because they are experiencing a true story of someone else who went through really awful things. But good things happen to my kids, too, and they all have gone on to become resourceful and well-adjusted and, in many instances, happy adults.
You know, and you've gone into so much detail, Andrea, about your books and the subject matter. How do you do your research?
Well, each book's got its own story, and I don't know exactly how much of that you want me to go into. When I was doing Surviving Hitler, when I determined that I was going to set this up as a goal for myself to write a very personalized, highly personalized story of a child who went through this experience in the death camps, I knew that we had a large survivor community here in Kansas City. Okay. Again, I didn't have any personal connection to this. I'm not Jewish. I didn't lose any family in the Holocaust in Europe. I was born after the war. And that, you know, those are good things because as I'm objective, I'm a journalist in the way that I approach the story. But what I did was I went to what's called the Center for Holocaust Education here in Kansas City. I talked to them. I said, this is what I'd like to do. And I knew, I had read in the paper that they had a lot of tapes they were archiving of Holocaust survivors. This was done through the Shoah Foundation set up for Steven Spielberg with Profits from Schindler's List. And I started looking at those tapes, and some of them were video, and I watched them. And I was looking for a certain kind of person, a person who wouldn't shut down, who would tell their whole story, who would answer any question and do it honestly. But they all had wonderful stories, so it wasn't a question of just trying to find somebody with a great story. They're all great stories.
Right.
But I needed somebody who also could be reflective about it and had in some way taken this horrific experience and had done something positive with it. And I just kept narrowing down the field until I knew that Jack Mandelbaum was a person. And then I wrote Jack a letter. He got the letter. He called me up. We talked for an hour on the phone. We were already working on the book at that point. We hadn't yet met.
Right.
And we went from there.
All right. Well, we're running out of time, Andrea. Where can we find more information on you? Because, again, this is 15 minutes is just not enough time to cover all that you do. But where can we find more info?
AndreaWarren.com.
And also remember Ink Think Tank for Vicki Cobb. I thought Vicki was coming on. I'll have to.
I thought so too.
So I guess we had some technical difficulties, but thanks for calling. And
yes, you bet. Thank you.
And I'd love to have you back on again. Thanks.
I'd love to come back.
Okay, we are going to continue going through this. We already had a break, but I want now this topic that really is getting my blood boiling. And I'm sure if anyone wants to call on 412-621-9728. And it's about bullying, but a different type of bullying, thanks to Darcy, I guess one of my new publicists. Alicia, this is why you came in. Tell us about this bullying situation. It's a little different.
Yeah, I am a music teacher at a school in the Pittsburgh area. It's a low-income school, and I was a mid-year replacement. So first of all, the deck was stacked against me. And I had an experience where there were a few students who were constantly bullying me, actually, as the teacher, which was completely unexpected. And it kind of worked itself out over the course of the year, but it was pretty uncomfortable for a little while.
God, that's horrible.
Wow. I mean, what did the administration do about this?
Well, that's the thing. Being a first-year teacher and new to the system, I had no idea. When it happened, I didn't really realize that I was being bullied. I just was like, oh, these children, they're horrible. What kind of students are these? And it didn't occur to me until months after the fact that, oh, I was being bullied.
Right. Oh, that's absolutely horrible. Why do you think the students kind of targeted you?
Mainly because I was a mid-year replacement. Obviously, students are a little reluctant to change. And also just that I wasn't aware of the structure, what things were available to me.
Right.
So it sounds like that preparation may have helped if there would have been some way you could have been introduced to the students in advance. Now that you've experienced this, and certainly we don't want teachers to go through this as a learning experience. We'd like the opposite. What advice would you tell administrators of schools to prepare new teachers so that first they'll identify it, and secondly, can do something about it if it does exist?
Right. I think the main thing is awareness, just knowing that it happens, and you shouldn't feel embarrassed if you feel like your students are bullying you as a new teacher. And then second thing is it's having a structure or hierarchy, somewhere like a chain of command to go and report that to.
Now, did you have any reluctance to even report this once you recognized it, for fear that it would be seen that you were a teacher who was not effectively controlling their classroom? Or did you feel comfortable going to administration?
I think it was a little bit of both. I was partially embarrassed, and also the setup that I was at in the school, there was more of a, not a reporting up, but a reporting out. So I was talking to, well, not...
Right.
That's not what they prefer, but
Right.
just the way I felt more comfortable.
Okay.
So I talked to my peers more about
Right.
it than
Right.
administration.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I know, bringing up this topic, I know on this show we've talked a lot about bullying, and when you bring up bullying in education, most of the times people say, oh yes, students bully each other all the time. There's always
Yes.
that school bully. Well, yes, that is a horrible thing, and we do need to address that. But the bullying that happens by teachers to other teachers, and by students to teachers, and by teachers to students, this is a horrible just chain of events that just keeps happening. And I found a bunch of articles about this, actually, which I wasn't aware that this was a problem until I talked to Alicia. And I'm so glad you're on today. Thank you so much. But I did some research, and there are tons of articles out there. And one, I kind of want to point this out. It's a report done by the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation, or OSSTF, and this was done in July of 2005. So 36% of teachers have been bullied by students.
Wow.
36%. That's almost half of all of our teachers are being bullied by students. And I know a lot of times people might say, oh, well, who's being targeted? Do we think it's female teachers, male teachers, part-time, full-time? I have a breakdown of how this is working and what students are bullying, okay? Part-time teachers, 61% of part-time teachers are being bullied by students.
Wow.
34% of full-time teachers, 30% of support staff, 39%, do you think it's men or women?
Men.
Men. 39% are men and 35% are women being bullied by these students.
Right, because again, men are not allowed to raise their voice like women are in certain ways. Because and then also there's a different authority. No, but ultimately, and Jarrett, I know you want to add this, but the fact is, I just think again, it's administration's not having any. I can't even say the word that I would like to say maybe on Blog Talk. The fact is that this
you
is
meant
ridiculous.
To say wisdom.
Yeah, wisdom.
Guts.
No, not wisdom. Guts. To deal with parents, to deal with these bullies, and to get rid of this behavior issues in the classroom, and to be bullied and allow it to happen. I just think it's horrible.
It absolutely is.
Well, it's going to have to begin in the earliest of stages. You know, it sounds like you were probably teaching older students.
4th through 8th grade.
Oh, okay, well, not so old then. Yeah, well,
and actually, the main problem I had was with 5th and 6th grade
okay,
students.
so earlier than 4th
That's
grade,
horrible.
we better start teaching this. But Darcy, you always provide such great support information, whereas Neil and I usually just make up our information.
No. I have a bank of information in my head. Oh my gosh! But I have a question for you, Alicia. Now, when you found this out, you went to the administration. What did they do about it?
Actually, I didn't go to the administration.
Now we blame
shame
you.
on me. I know.
No,
I
we
know.
don't blame you.
But a lot, like talking to peers and
Right.
talking to other teachers.
Asking for advice.
Yeah, asking
Right.
for
Yeah,
advice
of
from
course.
more
Makes
experienced
sense.
teachers. And really, what solved it was calling the parents. You know, and the parents were really invested in their students and getting a good grade most of the time, and learning, you know, what I was teaching, which was music. So going to the parents really nipped it in the bud.
Well, that's an important thing, but I think it's something that the administration needs to handle, not
Right.
the teachers.
Right.
The
Right.
teachers should not be calling homes. The lazy administrators should be calling the houses. They should be handling the discipline and letting the teachers teach. And that's one of the problems going on in education today is, oh, let the teachers handle it. We have enough to handle come on, administration, back the teachers.
Right, or not fault the teacher. I mean, at least.
No,
provide-
Jared, I still think they need to be calling the
Well, I
homes.
feel like they would
I
fault
agree.
the teacher
I
too.
agree.
I mean, if I was in your situation, I would have
right.
never gone to them. You know, and that's a big issue that students, teachers, everybody faces
Right.
whenever we're faced with a bully, because we're raised in this society where we're supposed to be able to stand up for ourselves and handle it ourselves.
Right.
When you're in an authoritative position, like being a teacher, and you have a student bullying you, and they
Right.
know that you can't touch them, this is where the administration needs to step in, and where we shouldn't feel like they're going to give us a hard time and say it's your fault, because it's not.
Well, and the administration can do this in so many ways. They can do better at building communities within their school. They can do better in preparing that middle of the year teacher or that teacher stepping into a new environment, so that the preparation is involved there, that we can let the students know that this is someone that is there for them, that they don't need to feel this is a challenge, provide support to the teachers, provide support to the students. And if you start this at the earliest of ages, you build a community by 4th, 5th, 6th grade. These things do not happen, or
Right.
they happen very rarely. But
Exactly.
administrators need to be the key in this. You know, it can't be just about sitting behind your desk in your locked door, locked office, and expecting to everything to run smoothly.
Well, I mean, Alicia, it's great that you're bringing this up, but again, what advice did the other teachers offer you once you told them about this?
It was really the answer: go to the parents, just call home, and that will solve it.
See, this is it's true. Call home and it
Yeah.
will solve it, but the fact is, it won't finish it.
Right.
That it's going to continue, and it depends on, I guess, gutless administrators like some that I have worked for that basically ultimately don't handle the discipline. They put it out on the teachers, and that's one of the biggest problems going on. And like why some charter schools are successful, the administrators do back discipline. They make sure that everything, but always it's the teacher has to call. Well, the teacher has too many things to take care of: lesson plans, increasing test scores, being able to make sure that each individual student, checking papers, doing all these different things. Why do they have to do it on their time? That's again when we talked about these office hours. What do you thought? What's your thought, Jared?
Well, I wanted to ask Alicia how she felt about calling the parents. I would have been terrified as a first-year teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little intimidated at first, but all of the parents that I talked to were just so invested in their students that they were first taken aback. Why are you calling home for my student? What did they do? How
Right,
could
so
you
they
even
were put
imagine
on the
that?
defensive.
Well,
not by you, but they took a
Right.
defensive posture.
in a sense, but they were very supportive. They're like, no, I'll definitely have to talk to my student today, and it won't happen again. So
Right.
it was encouraging that the parents were so,
Right.
on my side. Rather, but at first I was very trepidatious to call home.
Right.
Oh, I mean, when I hear this, I'm just tired of this. This is why education is what it is. Allowing students to be able to bully and not, administrators, walk into the classrooms, please. Don't just show up once in a blue moon, only when we're going to observe. Walk around. Show that you're authority to these students. That's what we need. We need discipline in our schools, and the only way to do that is to make sure that the administrators do their jobs.
Right, and that authority needs to be just the presence.
Yes, the presence.
We're not asking you to be the police officer walking the beat.
Right.
We're simply saying make your presence felt, because, again, within that community orientation, we'll do a better job.
All right. Well, I'm really excited about the show. It was an awesome show. I want to thank Jennifer Stansel from WQED for calling into the program. I want to thank Andrea Warren for calling in, Dr. Carrie Miller, and Alicia for coming to the studio. I really appreciate it. And you provided something that I want to continue on this. I'd love to have you for an hour on the Till Education Network to really attack this thing, see what TFT thinks, see what Bronx Teacher thinks. Well, I want to thank my producer, Chris Palmer, for doing a phenomenal job producing the show, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. And we'll talk again 7 o'clock Eastern on next Friday night. But also check out my website, TotalTutor.org, and hear when the Till Education Network will be on in your community. Good night, everyone.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Let's live at the beach.
Let's golf every day.
How about a trip?
Season baseball tickets?
Sounds like you're planning for retirement.
Hey, savings man.
Are you saving enough?
We are, thanks to the easy ballpark estimate worksheet at choosetosave.org.
Hope you're saving for health insurance.
Absolutely, because health insurance is important. Thanks, savings man.
No, thank you.
So visit choosetosave.org and get your ballpark estimate today. And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Look, honey, the neighbors just bought a big screen TV.
Hey, I just got a bonus at work. Maybe we should get one too.
Hold on there.
Savings Man.
Using your bonus to secure your future by paying down debt or saving is a better way to go.
Well, I declare you're right, Savings Man.
Stay ahead by choosing to save. And don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses.
But their name is Johnson.
For more tips and tools, visit choosetosave.org today.
I am Joan Rivers with an important announcement. Getting old is horrible, okay? Horrible.
You're not old. I mean, you're older, but you're not old.
You want to see old?
Oh, God.
Yes. Grow up, for goodness sakes. The last man to hit on me was an undertaker. I know where
I don't want to talk about
Well,
this,
you're going to
Mom.
have to talk about it. It's the future. It's coming right at us. And I'm not worried about dying. It's getting there. I mean, heaven is going to be fabulous. It's going to be a giant shopping mall, and there's going to be 20% off on everything, except for me, 44.
You know, you're doing jokes, and I'm just not ready.
Well, you have to be ready. You have to listen to me. Look, there are things to discuss. They're going to be my needs. They're going to be my wants.
You know, Mom, I don't want to hear this. I just don't want to hear this. La, la, la.
Don't give me la, 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 la,
I
la.
don't. I can't. I can't do
Talk
this.
to your family about aging, even
No.
if they're not ready to listen. Come on, listen to me. Listen to me.
For the first time?
Yes, for the first time.
No matter who you are, it's not easy talking about aging. For help, go to voa.org/talk. A message from Volunteers of America.
You can protect yourself from the flu by taking a few simple steps. First, cover your mouth and nose when sneezing or coughing, and encourage those around you to do the same. Next, wash your hands often with soap and water. And most importantly, get a flu shot.
If you want to do business with Social Security but don't want to visit an office, you can go online to socialsecurity.gov.
Take some precautions during this flu season.
Go online.
There comes a time in life when you need government information.
And you just don't know which way to turn.
Well, there's a place you can go to put an end to your frustration.
It's a site that everyone should learn.
USA.gov. Find your Social Security benefits online.
USA.gov.
Our list of jobs will put you on cloud nine.
USA.gov.
Shop auctions for a used minivan anytime.
USA.gov.
You can apply for a student loan.
USA.gov.
Get energy saving tips for your home.
USA.gov.
So great, you might just get carpal tunnel syndrome.
It's government made easy for the people. USA.gov. For the people. USA.gov.
Did you know that the average Social Security benefit is only $780 a month?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that most people will spend 20 years in retirement?
I didn't know that.
Did you know that a 40-year-old who saves $20 a week can have $75,000 when they retire?
I didn't know that.
There's a lot you might not know. To get free information about savings, visit our website or call this number.
I know what to do now.
I've lived in Delhi all my life, and I have seen the weather change. The monsoon this year has been more erratic than I can ever remember. We've had, I think, highest temperature in the last 50 years. Growing up, you'd wait for what we call an andhi, a squall. This year, there's not a drop. Some estimates say 2017, Delhi, 15 million people are going to be without water.
He passed away last year. It was hard at first when I found out how sick he was. The doctor suggested hospice care at home. Hospice helped so much. He came home, and that was wonderful. They helped me take care of him. They made his last months comfortable, pain-free. We were able to find some joy till the very end.
And now, another adventure with Savings Man.
Look, honey, the neighbors just bought a big screen TV.
Hey, I just got a bonus at work. Maybe we should get one too.
Hold on there.
Savings Man.
Using your bonus to secure your future by paying down debt or saving is a better way to go.
Well, I declare you're right, Savings Man.
Stay ahead by choosing to save. And don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses.
But their name is Johnson.
For more tips and tools, visit choosetosave.org today.